This time, I would like to discuss how Trump will respond to the trap Biden has set for him at the end of his term, which has become a point of interest. Let's begin by examining this article. It's been covered quite extensively in Japanese media, but just before leaving office, Biden introduced a strong set of regulations related to semiconductors. One key element was the announcement of comprehensive regulations on semiconductors for AI. If we look closely at the details, this appears to be a trap for the Trump administration. Depending on Trump's actions, dissatisfaction with his administration could rise. Here's how: while the regulations are comprehensive, they won't take effect for up to a year, giving a significant window of time. The rules also specify limits on the computing power that can be sold to foreign countries, but the criteria will be determined case by case, considering the security implications for each nation. Additionally, the government plans to solicit public opinions from businesses, with a consultation period of 120 days. In other words, all responsibility for these regulations has been handed over to the Trump administration. This means that whether to enforce these regulations and how to define their specifics will be up to the Trump administration. Already, the industry has voiced opposition, urging the government to scrap such restrictions, citing potential harm to corporate performance. On one hand, it would make economic sense for the Trump administration to allow free semiconductor trade, including with China. However, this could indirectly support China's military development and bolster Chinese companies, which compete with American firms. Many Americans expect tougher measures against China, creating pressure on the Trump administration to act. This creates a dilemma for Trump. Balancing the demands of strict enforcement with corporate lobbying for leniency could prove challenging. Biden's trap is clear: if Trump enforces the regulations strictly, U.S. companies like Nvidia may see their sales drop, potentially impacting their stock prices. A decline in stock prices could lead to criticism of Trump for being too strict. Conversely, if the administration relaxes the restrictions, it could face backlash from Americans demanding tougher actions against China. Another aspect of Biden's trap involves addressing the loopholes that have allowed advanced semiconductors to reach China through third countries. While U.S. companies profit from such exports, closing these loopholes would significantly impact their performance. For instance, chips exported to Singapore often end up in China, which benefits Chinese military and industrial sectors. If these loopholes are closed, the consequences for U.S. companies like Nvidia could include reduced revenues and falling stock prices, which could be blamed on Trump's policies. Biden's team may have deliberately delayed acting on this issue during his term, knowing that imposing regulations right before the handover would force Trump to shoulder the consequences. From Japan's perspective, the key points of interest are whether the U.S. will impose stricter regulations on semiconductor exports to China and how this will impact the global semiconductor industry, including Japanese companies. If the Trump administration tightens restrictions, it's likely to hurt the performance of U.S. chipmakers like Nvidia, potentially leading to declines in U.S. stock prices. Since many Japanese investors hold U.S. stocks, any damage to the U.S. market could also impact Japanese assets. Trump's ideal scenario would be to strictly enforce regulations against China without harming the U.S. economy, but achieving this balance will require significant skill. Failure to do so could lead to domestic disappointment, either from those demanding tougher action against China or from those upset by economic repercussions. This topic goes beyond semiconductor regulations. It has deep political implications, influencing U.S.-China relations, corporate interests, and public opinion. It will be crucial to continue monitoring how this situation unfolds. That's all for today. See you in the next video.